And then for the rest of the show, I think, because I have it ready here. I thought, Aaron, it would be fun to go back. You know, I always talk about how Star Wars is generational, and certain moments hit you differently, depending on when you've watched them or how much other Star Wars you've consumed.
Sure.
But related to that is I printed out a list here of all the various changes that have happened to Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope throughout the years.
So from the initial theatrical release,
to from the initial theatrical release all the way up until where we currently are with the version that's on Disney Plus.
Okay.
And I wanted to talk about this just because I think it's an interesting way to talk about how preferences work. You know, I think people tend to have tastes or standards when it comes to art, but then we also are just a slave to our preferences sometimes. Sometimes preferences, you don't even know why you like this food over the other one. You can't say why. You just do.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Because maybe you had a bad experience when you were young or something like that, or you watched something a certain way and then years later it changes, and I don't like that it changed. But people that watched that the first time prefer it over the old.
Yeah.
So I wanted to quiz you on what your preferences were for some of these various different changes throughout. Okay. And we're going to be talking just about A New Hope.
Just A New Hope. Yeah,
because it is the one that's changed the most.
Is it? Okay.
It is. I have 5 pages of changes, and this is cut down from 15 pages. Most of it, honestly, I had no idea. Almost every sound effect in Star Wars A New Hope has either been changed or retimed.
Okay.
I'm not kidding. It's every single scene.
I know one sound effect.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
I know one sound effect.
I'm going to go kind of in order of how the changes were made. So these first ones are literally within the first year of Star Wars coming out.
What?
There was the original theatrical release, and then things changed. This is even before the 1997 special edition. So we'll go through some of those things. And Stealthy Mr. Ninja subscribed. Thank you so much.
Mr. Ninja.
51 months. That's awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so Aaron, I think this one's probably pretty obvious, but it wasn't a special edition change. It happened before.
So this is before they had a video release or any of that kind of stuff?
When Star Wars first came onto the Star Wars, and then it was just the crawl started, and guess what wasn't there? Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope.
A New Hope.
That's one of the first changes that happens to that movie.
So when did they change that?
It was added into the title crawl in 1981 re-release. So 1997, that one comes up, and then it leaves theaters, and then Episode 5 comes out. And people are like, Episode 5, what's that mean? And then they do a re-release in theaters in 1981, and suddenly the title says Episode 4. The new crawl also capitalized the word rebel in Rebel Spies. It wasn't not capitalized. That was a big change. I don't know why, but they did it. It was not capitalized in the original 1977 opening crawl. Also, this altered the formatting of the text to accommodate 2 additional lines, which slightly changed the timing so the crawl no longer appears at the same music cue, which might not be a big deal to some people, but I always feel like my first watch of something is the most special, you know? When I watched Revenge of the Sith for the first time, May 19th, I'm not thinking about the amazing choreography and the production design and what George Lucas was thinking here. I'm simply watching characters do something, and but sometimes you have a feeling in there and then you watch it later. It's was that different? Oftentimes it was different. And we're going to be going through a lot of those. So even the people that watched in the theater in 1977 saw a version that the rest of us don't get to see
anymore.
Including that musical cue, which could be a big deal for people.
Yeah. We didn't even get to the Star Destroyer chasing Tanith yet.
Beru Lars is voiced by a different actress.
They redubbed over?
They redubbed her. I didn't know that.
Is that for the special edition?
Now, no, I have not gotten the special edition yet.
This is just all before they this is the
These are just changes that happened in the first couple of years of Star Wars existing.
Man.
Now, a lot of these too.
And people got mad about the special edition coming out making changes. They made changes before that?
When it says voiced by a different actress, this also has, and I got this list from a very robust list. I think this one. I don't think that what was her name? Sheila Fraser, I think is the name maybe of the actress. But sometimes, like most of the things on this list, it isn't that they changed a line. They just took an alternate line from a different scene and dubbed it over the current scene that you're seeing. That happens a lot too. I've removed most of those just because it was monotonous, but some of these, like the Baru Lars one, I think that's more what they're talking about, possibly different takes by the same actress is what happened. Because some people report being like, that's not how she said it. Why does she say it like this now? And that's one of the reasons, is they actually will just change out the take, but use the same visual.
So it might not even be a different actor saying the line, just a different line in general.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, for example, while searching for the droids in the street of Mos Eisley, a stormtrooper says, all right, check that side of the street. It's secure, move on to the next one. But it was changed to, all right, check this side of the street. That door's locked.
That door's locked. Move on to the next one. I know that line, yeah.
No, it's secure is what people remember, but the door's locked is what you would say it is.
Yeah. Door's locked, move on to the next one.
The line is also heard in a different voice in the mono mix. There's a lot of different mixes too.
Okay.
But yeah, it was quite fun going through this list and trying to figure out like what are they even talking about with this one. The chess monsters now make way more noise.
Okay.
The Jarek.
Yeah, they make
all
little
that
noises.
Stuff. Like in the very beginning, it wasn't. But I think they ended up changing that in the DVD, the 2004 DVD mix.
Okay.
So there's, and it's kind of funny too. They'll change something, and then in the next release get rid of it, and then the next release bring it back. So that's happened too. It's a very confusing time. Again, I'm trying to make a guide so that we can unravel all this confusion. I think I'm doing okay. Let's see here. There used to be an extremely hard echo when Luke would say, "Oh, I think we took a wrong turn." A lot of people remember this really, really, really echoey version of that line, and now there's no echo on it anymore.
Huh.
I thought that was kind of an interesting one. After Luke hands Leia his blaster in the chasm swinging sequence, it sounds like Dirty Harry's .44 Magnum when she fires it. This is present in the 1997 special edition, but was changed back to the standard blaster sound in the 2004 DVD. So originally, it had the .44 Magnum sound.
Huh.
Then they changed it in the special edition, and then now it's returned back to it.
I will say my preference is probably for the blaster in that
I would say
scenario,
probably, yeah.
But, man, I wish I had my original like VHS tape to hear if it had like the Magnum sound.
Yep. Man. In the original mono mix, Porkins just didn't have a death scream. Now he has a death. Now he actually screams. This one's, I think, pretty cool. The line that Luke said in the final battle used to be, "Blast it, Wedge," it used to be, "Blast it, Biggs, where are you?" And it was changed to "Blast it, Wedge, where are you?" for continuity purposes.
Because
there was no more Biggs.
There was no Biggs at that point? He didn't know there was no Biggs there? Huh.
Yeah. So that's something that's also been changed. Okay, so those are all things that found some type of change before the special edition. But the special edition is now where we are. And this is the time where I think, Aaron, you can tell me.
These are the ones I'm going to know probably.
You're going to know
I'm like,
this
I remember this because I watched
Yep.
the original, and then I remember special edition coming out,
Absolutely.
and I got the VHS tapes for that.
So you can tell me as we go through here, like, oh, I approve, or like, they shouldn't have done that.
Okay.
Additional dewbacks and search teams are visible as the stormtroopers look for the missing droids, and Imperial transport can be seen taking off in the background.
I remember all that when they were like, look, sir, droids. Like, there's like a dewback.
Yep.
Originally, there was like one dewback way back, and it was like a rubber like thing that a stormtrooper guy just
had
stand
a
on,
stick
and
in
it like
its head.
just nothing really moves. And I think they put that same one in front of the Mos Eisley Cantina, and it just was there. And I remember watching that and be like, oh yeah, whatever. But then when you see the special edition, them moving and walking and stuff, like, kid me, preferred that so much because it added more life and stuff to what they were doing, and it filled the area of that desert.
Did your kids ever like doubt that they couldn't do anything like that in 1977, or they just accepted? It looks old anyway.
Huh.
You know? Because I remember when the special edition came out and being like, oh my God, like, that's not how things move in Star Wars, you know?
Sure, like that dewback.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
No, I don't know. My kids are probably just like, this is old.
The farther you get back, people are going to be like, oh yeah, that looks just as bad as everything else.
Yeah, right? No, it doesn't. Dang kids.
So the dewbacks are a big one, I think. Let's see. There's a new shot of the evening Tatooine sky that tilts down to show the opening of the scene in which R2-D2 is wandering through the hills. before he's captured by Jawas. They kind of did that for like continuity of time of day.
Sure.
And to just kind of change up the monotony of Tatooine a little bit.
I don't really remember that at all, so it might not have affected me too much.
The Jawa Sandcrawler has been revised. The sunset progression has been enhanced with the sky darkened and stars added to the end of the sequence. The scene where R2-D2 is captured has been tinted red to resemble a sunset.
A sunset?
Yeah.
I
do remember the Sandcrawler has a new shot.
Okay. I think I vaguely remember it being more red than before.
Yeah. A new digital matte painting of the Sandcrawler in Extended Sky was added when the Jawas are setting up shop in front of the Lars farm. Artificial zooming is also present. More vaporators have been added, and they disappear in subsequent shots.
Really?
Yeah.
I never noticed more
I've never noticed them disappearing, definitely.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back. Man, I want to compare them now.
I know, right? It really makes you want to watch the
That's not
original
anything
cut.
I think I've recognized of like, the moisture evaporators are different.
There's an establishing shot of Ben Kenobi's hut. I think that we all remember what we're talking about. That was not in the original. We just appeared in his home.
Huh. Okay. Yeah.
Obviously, Mos Eisley is bigger and busier. Family members of ILM employees wore costumes and walked around a blue screen mat. Their images were composited into the new scenes.
The life the city gets from the intro to Mos Eisley, I think, is so grand.
It's so grand.
Like
it turns it from a gas station, kind of like Tashi Station, like it's cut, and this kind of just feels like it does not feel big at all.
No, I think you had like a shot, and then you had like pulling into like the stormtrooper stopping them, and then you went to like the cantina, and this was like we're driving through the city. You're seeing spaceships. You see the oh man, I used to know it was called the big long-necked brontosaur thing.
The Ronto.
The Ronto. Mm-hmm. Like I love when it drops. There's a toy where you can like throw Jaws off of it and stuff. I remember that. But like those things being added to it, that one droid hitting the other droid because it annoys it. I think like, it just livened up the city a bit more.
I think Mos Eisley benefited the most because you're standing on the looking upon the landscape, and Obi-Wan's like, Mos Eisley spaceport, the hub of scum and villainy, But you get there and there's like two buildings and one guy with like holding the stick with a dewback.
A dewback that doesn't really move. It just kind of like does this, but then they replace that dewback and it's like it moves and it looks real.
I think as we go down this list, you kind of realize that like Lucas, it really bothered him the way that movie turned out. I mean, obviously he cared about the success, but he always maintained they didn't get close to what he wanted.
Is the next one related to the speeder?
Well, yes, technically. All of these are the Mos Eisley thing. There is Dash Rendar's ship, the Outrider, can be seen taking off in the background when Luke's land speeder enters the city.
I
realize that you're not a fan of that ship.
No.
But as a fan of Shadows of the Empire, that was probably like the most like geeky, like of having that in the special edition.
Special edition came out. I was probably playing Shadows of the Empire because I got it in the N64 and it was great. But yeah, I hate that ship. I hate flying it.
Yep.
Dash can fly it. I just don't want to be Dash flying it.
There's a blur under the land speeder caused by poor
Vaseline
image quality
right?
From repeated optical compositing to obscure the wheels of the land speeder with hand animated haze that was removed and then replaced with new, more accurate shaped shadow. So they put Vaseline on the lens.
Yeah, I was always told, and I think maybe it was in the special edition. There's
optical
like
composite.
putting Vaseline on the bottom of the lens to try to hide it and cover it up.
Yeah, for anybody that's a compositor. Digitally, these days, you might not get it, but they used to have to do that all on camera. There was no like, we'll do it later. All right. So yeah, this is mostly the Mos Eisley stuff, which I think has some of the best and some of the worst changes.
Okay. What's the worst one?
Let's see. In the cantina, Greedo now fires first as Han dodges the shot, then returns fire on Greedo. This is the most famous and controversial change to the film.
Okay.
So in this change...
Which changes are we... Yeah, because like...
In this one, Greedo shoots first, Han dodges out of the way, and then shoots him.
Han does dodge? I feel like I remember one of him not dodging, and I preferred him not dodging. Or do I misremember that?
They make him dodge less in later changes. Because, that scene gets changed so much that eventually they shoot at the same time. But yeah, that's probably the most famous one. And, I mean, I don't necessarily have a preference on it, but I never saw the reason to try to make Han Solo feel more like a hero. I feel like in terms of the arc of the character, have him shoot first, and then have him also come back and save the rebels.
Sure.
There's a contradiction there, sure, but I feel like that is more of an arc for a character than it is trying to be consistent with the character.
Sure. Well, and he's there for him, and it's like, what is he going to do? Is he going to shoot me? Like, if he's there to shoot me, I'm going to shoot him so I don't die first, right? So, I don't know. I don't think there's an issue with Han shooting first. I think I'm probably on the preference of letting him shoot first.
Yeah.
Especially before he says McClunky. I never understood the addition of that. And we're not even on that part yet, are we?
No. No, we're not. We'll get there.
Yeah, shoot him before he says McClunky. Let's do a new edition.
Let's see. There's some new aliens in the cantina. There's the short pause of the camera features a Jawa being bucked from the Ronto mount.
Yeah.
There's also the first version of this, a CGI version of Jabba the Hutt confronts Han and the Millennium Falcon's launch bay with new dialogue recorded in the Huttese language.
That was a whole new scene they added.
The new action footage in the scene was from the original 1976 shoot.
Yeah.
So they did shoot that with another actor.
I remember this from the special edition where they were talking about that because they talked about all these different changes they did to it.
Yeah.
And they didn't talk about all of them, I guess, because they didn't talk about a lot of the audio changes and stuff. But
yeah.
I remember talking about Jabba the Hutt, and he's like, they didn't know what he was going to look like whenever the actor was there playing him. And then Han Solo walked around him. He's like, how's he going to do this? There's a tail there. He's like, well, have him step on the tail. So the digital adjustment of Han Solo for the tail, I'm like, it doesn't look great, but I understand why they do it. Whereas the Han dodging, I don't think looks great either. And I'm like, just don't do that. Just have him shoot Greedo then.
And again, this is just the first version that change has happened. We'll get into the next time they change.
Wait, there's a change?
Yes,
so
sir.
This is the special edition adding it?
Yeah, the special edition adds it. And
I don't know what
later
the future
they change
changes
it
are,
again.
so I have to know what the changes are there for that.
Okay, so I'll try to speed up here. Let's see. There's a new scene in the Mos Eisley docks as the Falcon takes off. It goes up. You see the stuff in the back and it takes off.
Yeah.
That's brand new. Love it.
That's
Wouldn't
fine.
change anything.
That's fine.
The explosion when Alderaan is destroyed by the Death Star has been completely redone using the Praxis effect, which is so named because it was used in Star Trek The Undiscovered Country.
Okay.
But that effect,
I didn't know they
which
changed
was designed
the
for that. Yeah.
Alderaan explosion.
I mean, a lot of the explosions were literally just firing an explosion on a dark set and then using that, slowing it down. But these have actual digital effects now.
Gotcha.
The Death Star docking bay is revised to be more consistent with the one seen in Return of the Jedi.
Huh.
Most notably, the overhead shot when the Millennium Falcon has landed. I didn't know that.
They changed it because it had a matte painting, right?
Yeah, and they make it match Return of the Jedi a bit more, which one of the ones I never noticed.
It's probably a lot smaller originally, and then they made it really big for whenever. I mean, honestly, that being different isn't a big deal because it's a new Death Star. It's a different Death Star.
You're right.
It having a bigger docking bay, sure, it probably is because it's like twice as big or something like that. I don't remember how big it was, but it was bigger.
Yeah.
You know?
Like 400% bigger.
And it's not even finished, you know?
I know.
So, they didn't have to do that.
Yep.
But I guess if you're looking at, let's make it look similar, but then the scale's bigger on the other one, all right, fine.
I heard a thing where the guys that were making the models for Return of the Jedi were they didn't want to make a model of the destroyed Death Star. They just wanted to do a matte painting. And Lucas is like, well, how much is the model going to be? So the guy was trying to trick him to be like, hey, you just bought this brand new Lamborghini. It costs about as much as that Lamborghini. Trying to dissuade him. And Lucas goes, oh, that's it? Yeah, build it. Because the guy, he's the one paying for everything himself, you know?
Yeah.
I thought it was so
That's
funny.
all?
That's all?
That
just a Lamborghini?
That's crazy.
Let's see here. The flashes of blaster impacts on some of the Imperial officers were censored. So in the original version, when you get hit with a blaster, they would just set off these squibs that just exploded these guys' chests, you know? And a lot of them are censored in the special edition.
Oh, so they hit less.
The impacts are lessened. I think maybe trying to just help with the rating.
Maybe, yeah.
Let's see here.
The Stormtrooper room, is that where we're at?
Yep, when Han Solo was chasing a squad of Stormtroopers on the Death Star, instead of running into a dead end, he ends up in a hangar bay with seemingly hundreds of Stormtroopers and officers.
I like it so much more
like
with
that one.
I remember him running in there oh no, there's 10 of them, you know?
Yep.
But in this one, you walk in, you're like, holy crap, run. I can't do anything here. That was, for me, I think a better change. For young me, maybe, I don't know.
someone will have to confirm this because this one I'm not sure of, but they say that in the original theatrical cut, "Close the blast doors" is there, but then it's not there in the home release, but then in the special edition, it's put back.
I definitely remember that.
I remember
at least in the special edition. Mm-hmm. I don't know about the original because I remember it being so funny, being like, "Close the blast doors," and then they get there, "Open the blast doors, open the blast doors," and I was like, "Ha ha! You shouldn't have closed them."
Yep. Let's see. 2 shots of the Millennium Falcon approaching Yavin have been completely reshot, and then the Falcon can now be seen landing on the 4th moon of Yavin. That was never the case back in the day. There's a new matte painting of the establishing shot of the Rebel Base Temple. That was a special edition. Additional fighters have been added to the matte painting of the Rebel hangar. So when you would look into the Rebel hangar, like the original version had less fighters than the special edition.
That's cool.
A whole scene between Luke Skywalker and Biggs Darklighter just before the Battle of Yavin has been inserted. That was not in the original. I can't imagine that without it.
I remember that not being there on my original VHS. And I think that's another one. Like the establishing shots are great, but also like just getting other times with characters. I enjoy those too. Like Biggs was not a very big character, I feel like, originally in that. Like he was like, yeah, he's there, but like it should be a bigger deal that it's Biggs, you know?
Yep. I think there's too many to mention all the little tiny insert shots that were made for the space battle just to liven things up. If you were to watch the original version versus the special edition, you would really wonder, oh my God, what do I remember of the original version? But there's just so many. That's
interesting because people were blown away by the original one and what it had there. Like just adding in more of that.
I mean, entire lines are changed and added after Red Leader's unsuccessful trench run. The line, "He's on your tail," has been added to the film. That wasn't there originally. The shot from the Rebels flying away from the Death Star is completely new. The shockwave of the Death Star exploding was completely new. This is the biggest one. And in the special edition, James Earl Jones is credited.
Really?
He was not credited in the original, but in the special edition he is. So that's another one I would say yes.
I think you should do that, yeah. I understand. Like, there's a lot of times people are in something and they're uncredited. But James Earl Jones, like, he should be credited for that.
And then a fun one that I almost don't want to mention because when you know it, you hear it every time. It shouldn't be a huge deal. But Luke's theme is partially repeated in the ending credits music to make room for the special edition release credits. So there's a part where the music just loops and does the same thing. I can hear it whenever I see it, but I don't think most people would care that much.
Sure, yeah.
And it's just a change of the credits. So that was just the 97 special editions. We're going to be moving on to the 2004 Star Wars trilogy changes. So let's see.
2004, okay.
There's things in here like the Jawa Sandcrawler stops outside the Lars homestead, and C-3PO says, "Oh, we've stopped," before telling R2-D2 to wake up. Wasn't
just an extra scene
in any of the ones from there. A long shot of Luke's land speeder in the canyon with the 2 Tusken Raiders taking aim has changed. Now, instead of there being merely a moving white blob, the land speeder has actual detail. That's also a big change. And then here's one, Aaron.
Okay.
Obi-Wan Kenobi's scream to scare off the Sand People has been changed to a higher-pitched wail. The old version of Obi-Wan's scream in the original and the 1997 version sounded similar to a dubak. The new version of Obi-Wan's scream in the 2004 version is similar to what the Krayt Dragon should sound like. This will be changed again later.
So that was more of the I remember it being a different sound.
It was.
I would like to talk about that other one a little bit later. We can discuss the 3 different ones I think there are.
Yep. There's a couple different other versions of some shots for the approach to Mos Eisley, but here we go. The Han versus Greedo scene is redone again. This time, Greedo and Han shoot at almost exactly the same moment, but Greedo is still fractionally ahead. Han also dodges Greedo's shot more convincingly in this one. And additionally, Han's original line of, "Yeah, I bet you have," has been restored. The 1997 special edition removed the word "yes," but the shot is slightly shorter. So the 97 one had, "I'll bet you have," but now it's originally, "Yeah, I bet you have." What a strange thing to keep changing.
Some of them are so little of changes.
It's such a little one, but you know that Lucas is sitting there like, it's not right yet. And then here, a CGI version of Jabba the Hutt based on his appearance from The Phantom Menace now confronts Han Solo.
So they changed what Jabba looked like.
97 had a very bad model of a CG Jabba. And then they took the 99 version that they spent a lot of money on and redid the entire scene. But I honestly didn't notice this. When Han steps on Jabba's body to get to the Falcon, Jabba winds up as if to punch him. In the 1997 special edition, he just yelped in pain.
Yeah, I remember that. He went, "Row!"
Yeah, but now they have him like, oh, why I oughta.
Man.
I never really noticed
Maybe
that.
I never watched it with like the 2004?
Yeah.
Is that like a DVD release or what kind of collection was
this
it?
is the 2004 DVD box set where these changes happened.
The box set. Okay, yeah. I must have never gotten that. I wonder how it is on like when we get to Disney.
Yeah, and then in the compositing, they also added some shadow onto Han when he goes behind Jabba, try to make it a little more realistic.
I always remember him
the
just
scene
like
still doesn't work for me.
Gasping and being like, "Ah!" and like his eyes getting real big.
I think
always remember that.
I think the solution of having Han step on his tail just doesn't work. I don't know how you can make it work, but I don't think it works.
Yeah, I mean, I think it works because of like, well, he can't because the tail's in the way.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't plan for that when they shot it, so it's you CG, like you move him up and down, and it's weird, you know.
The Dianoga blinks now. Didn't used to blink.
I do remember it blinking.
The matte painting in the detention block has been extended, making the corridor seem even longer than it used to. They changed the perspective a bit. Couple retiming things in terms of like audible stuff, not as important. This one's cool. The writing on the Death Star tractor beam control panel originally read Power, Tractor Beam 12, Section N6, and Inoperative, but it has been changed from the Latin alphabet to the standard Star Wars Arabic alphabet. The word Inoperative is panned and scanned out of the full screen DVD version.
So it used to be written in Latin, huh?
It was, Latin-based, so it was just English.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it was just, the Latin alphabet is what they were saying. So yeah, they changed it from just English Latin lettering to Arabic. And that happened in that version. The lights in the tractor beam control room are now green. They were never green. Now they're green. There's little things in here I'm trying to go through. Audio bumps. They keep trying to fix the lightsaber colors, and they kept failing.
Yeah.
Like, despite the revised lightsaber blades, Luke still appears out of thin air when activated instead of extending out of the hilt for the first shot. And then it looks pale green in one shot instead of blue. And that's always bugged me. And I don't know why, because it's such an easy fix.
I feel like there was one shot, and I can't remember. It's somewhere where Vader and Obi-Wan are fighting each other, and they kind of have their sabers close together. And I feel like the saber disappeared at one point and came back.
Yep.
I think I have a memory of that, but I don't remember which version it would have been or anything.
Sure. This one, in this edition, following the lightsaber duel between Obi-Wan and Vader, as Vader approaches the closing blast doors towards the hangar, his lightsaber blade is now colored red and glowing. In all previous editions of the film, there was no glowing red animation on Vader's lightsaber blade. Instead, he was seen toting a tapered white tube with rounded off tip. It was just kind of an
2004 is when they made it red finally?
Finally, they fixed it.
Huh.
An audible thing that I never can appreciate, John Williams' score has been flipped in the left and right rear channels and has been quieted and eliminated from some portions of the Battle of Yavin sequence. So they changed some of the directions that happen, and then also the quiet whenever they don't want it there and raise it up when they do.
Gotcha.
So that changed a lot. I just thought it was funny. It's like, they did? I didn't know that.
I'm so stuck on Darth Vader not having a red lightsaber.
It's a pretty crazy one.
Up until 2004?
Yep.
It was just a white one?
Just for that one shot.
Just that one shot. Okay.
Yeah, not for the whole thing, but just for that one shot.
Okay.
A lot of other extra things have been fixed, but nothing that we really need to worry about too much.
Okay.
So now we move on to the 2011 Blu-ray.
2011 Blu-ray.
Yep.
So okay.
All right. I bet you might recognize this
82.
one. After Aunt Beru calls Luke to remind him of the translator droids, she says, "Tell your uncle if he gets a translator, make sure it speaks Bocce." But the original line, as we heard it before 2011, was, "Tell uncle," not "tell your uncle." She used to say, "Tell uncle if he gets a translator, be sure it speaks Bocce."
Okay, that sounds familiar.
I clearly remember her saying, "Tell uncle." But that is not the case in the 2001 edition.
Huh. Tell uncle that if he...
Obi-Wan's crate dragon call has been changed again.
All right, so which I think this one's the biggest one. I think.
Yeah.
There's like 3 different changes. I don't know if they do it again in the Disney Plus one. I don't think, right?
So.
I think it's just those.
This is the one that if you watch Disney Plus
that's what you have now. I want to know chat's opinion too. Like, have you heard all 3 of the Crate Dragon sounds? Mm-hmm. And if so, which one's your favorite? Because I think
For me, it's not even my favorite. Like, every time I hear the new one, it hits me like, oh yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
I have one that's like mine in my head, and I don't think of this one.
Like the do-back one is fine, and I think them changing it to high pitch it to make it less do-back sounding is fine too. Mm-hmm. My least favorite is the and then I'm like, what the hell is this sound, and why did you decide to do this?
Yeah, and then we saw a Crate Dragon Mandalorian. It didn't always sound like that.
But I think it had like the more high pitch, like kind of sound. But like, if you haven't heard them, like I guarantee YouTube, you can find like the 3 different like versions of Obi-Wan doing these sounds. The third one has always been my least favorite.
I agree,
and I'm like, I don't know why. I don't know who thought this was a good idea, or why they thought it was a good idea.
We gotta get Matthew Wood on here because I'm pretty sure he would have been working on it.
Oh yeah, we'll talk to him. Who picked this sound?
Yep.
I want to know that. We need to have a whole investigation.
We do. In the scene where Obi-Wan discovers R2-D2 hiding in an alcove, rocks have been digitally inserted into the frame to hide the droid. Though no explanation of him getting behind them or out from behind them is added, and in fact, they just disappear. So there's a shot, and I remember this shot very clearly because the rocks inserted do not look real. They don't look 3D. They look 2D to me.
Are we in the scene when Obi-Wan walks over to Luke?
Yeah.
Is that where we're at? And he looks over and is like, well, hello, little one.
Hello, my little friend. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
There's just rocks there now, and then in the next shot, they're just not there.
Okay.
It's a weird change. I would probably lose that one, I think. The CG rocks, Nexus knows. All right, the shot of Han and Greedo firing each other has been shortened by several frames from the 2004 DVD version, so they shoot at nearly the same time.
I thought they shot nearly the same time before.
But Greedo was slightly before.
So it's even nearer.
Now it's even nearer.
Is he still first? He must be, right?
In my notes for the Schmodown, which this version is what I base it off of, I say they shoot simultaneously because I went frame by frame, and it looks like they fire on the same frame. So
you can't get much more like.
You can't get much more. My answer is officially in canon they shoot simultaneously. However, this happened 2011 complete Blu-ray edition. There's the change that happened was, and I don't have it covered here. When Disney Plus uploaded it, they suddenly had McClunky, and everybody's, what the hell was that? Who decided to do that? It turns out it was George Lucas who changed it just before he sold Lucasfilm.
What? Why?
He didn't even change it for a reason, like for a release. He just kept thinking about it. He's like, I want to add McClunky. So McClunky is a George Lucas added thing that was added after he retired. The power the man has.
Man. I mean, George Lucas, we wouldn't have it without him, but that's I don't know what McClunky is. I don't know why McClunky is. Like, I don't know what it's supposed to mean. Do we ever learn what McClunky means?
Yeah, it means this is the end for you, or something like that.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. We heard something about that.
All right, so Luke's green lightsaber, or at least the one shot that it was green.
You know what? I guess him saying that, if you want to have them shoot at the same time, him being like, this is the end for you, be like, all right, I'm shooting.
I'm going to shoot you then.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
The previous version was trying to correct what the lightsaber looked. For some reason, it looked green. So Luke's green lightsaber blade during the training scene in the Millennium Falcon is corrected, though the blade still appears to be more white than blue for the rest of the scene. I agree. It still looks bad. I don't understand it. I literally could do this for no budget and make it look better. I don't understand. I'll go through my last here, and then we'll look at something too. Let's see. That's not important. Audio errors aren't important. Sparks added to certain moments of the lightsaber clashes during the battle between Obi-Wan and Vader. They now do that in the 2011 version. They never sparked before. And then the last one is the blue door to R2 and 3PO's crash escape pod has been fixed and is no longer blue. And those are all the changes.
I think there's one more that wasn't mentioned.
Sure.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but isn't there this is a sound effect one.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a sound effect added to the stormtrooper hitting his head?
Oh,
that they they shed more light on. I believe it was an accident originally, right? And they just kind of like
on my list, though.
Don't pay attention to that one.
Yeah.
But then after the Jango Fett thing,
I
right?
mixed it. It was done in the right here. An audible bump has been added to the infamous moment where a screen right stormtrooper bumps his head on the door frame as a stormtrooper squadron breaks into the control room.
Was that in the 2004 DVD set or was that in the Blu-ray?
That was in the 2004
Okay, because I'm like, it would have been after having Episode 2 come out.
Sorry, I had a lot of audible stuff.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Over.
That was the only other one in my head that I was like, this one stands out.
One.
And like the continuation of like the Jango Fett, Boba Fett kind of thing. I assume they must still be clones maybe at that point, but maybe some of them are. I don't know. Because like now more in the story as we've gone on, like you might take that out.
Yeah.
Because who are clones of the stormtroopers now, and have they been phased out? Because some of the story kind of has been like, hey, we're replacing them. We watched Bad Batch, and there's a lot of that in that story beat.
Yeah.
But there's some of them that aren't, so like maybe it is. I don't know, but I just remember that being a thing.
Well, those are all some of the major changes. Let us know down in the comments below. Which ones did you like? Which ones do you not like? What do you prefer?
There's none that I necessarily dislike per se of the changes. I don't get McClunky, and I mean, that whole scene, I think Han shooting first is just fine for me.
I always thought it was perfectly fine the way it was.
But everything else, like anything that adds like the establishing shots where I get to see more of like the world building and the environments and all that, I love all those changes.
Agreed. And then we have here, Gonk has up. We're actually going to watch through the years all the different, from 1977 to 2011, the different Crate Dragon calls.
All right.
And we're going to hear them and decide which one's the best. That's the do-back one.
Yeah, that sounds much more like a do-back.
Very similar, but slightly different in 97.
Sure.
I remember that one.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
I think I prefer the original.
Maybe
it's the one that I've heard the most, but that last one, I don't get it.
It's like a guy who's like, ooh, and then
that one doesn't do it.
I don't understand
me.
why they did it.
Yeah.
I feel like the high pitched one, sure. If you want to distinguish, do-back sound a little bit more like this, and this one sounds a little bit like that. I don't think I have any problem with them just making it a little different. I don't know who came up with that sound.
Sure.
I would love to talk to them and be like, hey, what was the plan, and why did you go with this?
I don't know. I don't know why they did it. But, that last one I don't think is it. But that is the current canon sound.
The 77 to the first one felt pretty similar.
Really similar. There's only just a difference of, like, scale, I feel.
Maybe.
In it.
But the third one and the fourth one,
I
definitely sense a difference in those ones.
Yeah.
This is the first time seeing. Oh, okay. Original sounds more like a creature. Yeah, the original does sound more like a creature. Last one sounds realistically what a man imitating a creature would sound like. Maybe that's what they're going for, is trying to like, I don't know. Wait, what's the realistic sound that they have of like that part of it? Unless it's meant to be like an echo or something weird.
I don't know. I don't get it. I love / hate imagining Alec Guinness doing that with his mouth.
Sure, I get what you mean.
Yeah. But no, I prefer the first one. I know there's a lot of things in here that I prefer. I do not prefer the Jabba. I just rather just not have that scene. I don't think it adds much to it.
I like the scene though.
It's not bad.
I like
but
it.
I don't think it's worth having Harrison Ford artificially go float in the scene over his tail. It doesn't work for me.
I don't care about that.
Okay.
Like, I guess I look at more of like what it's adding to the movie versus like, does it look real? Because I'm like, some of the dewbacks, like, sure, it looks like it's a CG dewback thing versus like the rubber ones they had where it's like there's something really there. But I do like you get to see Boba Fett there, and it's established that there's that. It's like, why'd you kill my poor boy Greedo? You know, like some of that building and being like, all right, fine, one more chance, and for the extra, this much percent. Whoa. I'm not giving you that much, Jabba. All right, 15, like I do like building up Jabba to be seen, and like the idea of
I agree
why he is in such why Han Solo needs this money and what the problems are.
Yeah.
Greedo gives you a little bit of that. But I think the Jabba scene gives you a little bit more of that.
It does.
And pushes for, oh, Boba Fett's here. I saw him because he was there with Jabba.
He is,
and then now we get to see Jabba again. You
Yeah.
know, so like if it could have been done better, but I think I like the scene. But I understand the CGI aspect.
I
of
certainly like Jabba's look better. I personally have never found that Jabba performance to sound like Jabba. I feel like every other time we see him in the Clone Wars and various times in video games and stuff, I'm like, oh, I think it sounds pretty good. But there's something about that scene that doesn't sound like him to me.
Interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, that was our A New Hope. At some point here in the future, we'll move on to Empire Strikes Back. But A New Hope certainly has the most changes. I think it's the one that Lucas felt the most that film escaped from him. He never completed it. You know?
Okay. Oh, what?
Gibu has subscribed on our Twitch. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gibu.
35 months.
Woohoo!